You guys go ahead and have a seat. Awesome, man. This is super fun. And
Should we sit this? Is this how we should do it?
I don't know. You want to cuddle?
No.
Okay. No. Thought I would try. Man, we are excited. Hey, first of all, man, will you give the band a hand for being up here? Kenzie, Rachel, Miss Claire, and Maddie is, I don't know where Maddie went. I lost her. But they did an incredible job. So thank you guys so much for leading in the room. Man, this is going to be fun.
I know. I'm excited.
I've never spoken to all-girl room before, so.
You're a little intimidated?
I am a little scared. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot more estrogen in the room than there is.
We're all sweet.
No, you're not.
Sometimes.
Nope.
Okay, well, in all seriousness, we really are. We're excited just to have this opportunity, just to gather as women, as children of God, and we, we're God's princesses, essentially. And so this is an opportunity for us just to gather and to hear, from Josh, but ultimately, from the Lord, what he has for us when it comes to guys, and trying to understand a little bit more about, what are our roles and what is going through a guy's mind when it comes to dating and relationships.
A lot. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I don't know.
We'll talk about that later.
Well, that's where we're going tonight, and we're just really excited just to dive in. And first, we're going to start just right off the bat, taking a look at a piece of scripture. So we're going to be in Ephesians 5, and we're going to read verses 22 through 30. Now, these verses are specifically talking about marriage, so don't it's okay. But we're going to unpack it together, and we're going to talk through some principles that you can hear and that you can take home and apply to your life even right now today. So Ephesians 5, verse 22. I sometimes get tense when I read this first one, but don't worry, we're going to talk about it, okay? Wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord, because the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. He is the Savior of the body. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives are to submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her, to make her holy, cleansing her with the washing of water by the word. He did this to present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or anything like that, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands are to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one ever hates his own flesh, but provides and cares for it, just as Christ does for the church, since we are members of his body. Okay, so we're going to get back to there, but that's the platform of what we want to jump into tonight. That's the foundation. That's where we're starting from. But we got to start a little lighter than that, because that's pretty heavy. Okay, so how tonight's going to work is essentially all of you ladies kind of put yourself in my place, and we are going to grill Josh. We're going to ask him all the questions that you've ever wanted to know and try to find out what exactly is going on in the mind of a dude.
It's a dark mystery.
Yeah, I don't know that I have it figured out. So.
No, you don't.
I know.
Sure. No.
All right. Okay. Well, we're going to start easy.
Yes.
All right. You ready? You ready? You got it? Okay. Take a deep breath. All right. What is a time where you thought you were being so sweet to me, but the reality is you missed the mark big time?
Well, there are a lot. We've been married for.
Because this never happened to y'all, in a dating relationship, has it?
Right. No dudes ever showed up and yeah, I got it, and you were you missed the mark, bro. Like this has happened probably even when we were dating, for sure. But in marriage, I can remember a couple that's really stand out. One when we were engaged, and a couple when we got married. And so we were married for I should have done the math. I think 12 years. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Yes. I know when our anniversary is. I just didn't do the math real quick. So we were married 12 years. And so on our first anniversary, I thought I was going to be super sweet, because I thought, what better husband would want to do and spend time with, because I knew your love language was quality time. And so I was like, hey, let's spend time together, quality time. So on our first anniversary, I bought you a fishing pole and a set of golf clubs. And I thought I was doing amazing, because I was like, she can go do things with me. It's going to be awesome.
Do I like fishing today?
No, but you have a sweet fishing pole.
I do.
You do.
That I don't touch.
That is true. Snow fishing with it. But golf, you did enjoy golf.
I did. learn to like golf.
You did learn to like golf. But the one that really stands out, and I get in trouble for this one. I think I told some senior girls this story the other day. So when I was 16 years old, when I would date girl, whatever. Okay. There was a period of time I dated, and every time I got a love note, I thought this was super amazing. I would keep the love note, and I had this green box. I don't know what was green. Somebody made a box of something that I don't know who did it.
These girls are not me.
No. That's not part of the story yet. Okay. And so I get this box, and I would keep all these love letters in this green box. And I had in my 16-year-old brain, which is not very smart, but I thought out one day I'm going to be able to give my future wife this box full of all these love notes and all these from all these girls, so that she could like take them out. And I had this like plan of I'm going to say, honey, you get me, but all these other girls mean nothing to me. You have my whole heart. And that was like I had this whole plan. That is not apparently a good idea.
No.
I didn't know that. I had a plan.
I thought we were going to start a burn pile and have s'mores.
Yes, it was bad. She was so mad at me. And I was like, what? What is this? Is so
because,
sweet.
Like, as a girl, like, I had
7 years worth of stuff in this box.
Like, I had to read them. Like, I had to know, you know? Yeah, it was not good.
We still own this box till one day the kids are going to look through it. It's going to be funny and awesome. So.
Do we still?
It's in my parents' attic somewhere. It's still green.
We'll talk about that some more.
Yeah, sorry. So, anyway, if your boyfriend thinks that's a good idea, or you're just tell him, no, that's terrible. Like, don't ever do that. Bad news. Anybody else think it's sort of sweet? Man, I thought I would have one. Like, one of you.
No. It's creepy.
I thought it was sweet. I thought I did an amazing job.
No.
Whatever. Okay.
No.
I learned the hard way. Girls and boys are different. And
So,
you think a lot different than I do.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure. So why don't you tell us? Your next question is,
okay.
How exactly does a guy's brain work? How did you come up with this?
Well, first of all, guys' brains don't work, which is a part of the problem. Especially.
All right, we're done. You can go home.
Okay, thank you. Especially teenage boys' brains. Somehow there's a period, and if any parents are in the house that have had teenage boys, from the age of like 14 to 22, their brains stop working. I don't know what happens. Something happens. I do know what happens. It's called hormones. But things stop. They just stop thinking. But men and women are completely different. Now, obviously, for good reasons. And the way we process information is completely different. And I don't think every girl understands this. I think every girl projects that this boy, whoever it is, thinks and processes information the exact same way. You probably heard this fact. There's books written about men are from Mars and women are from Venus, right? You speak different languages, and that is true because when you have conversations, the way you process what is happening around you is completely different. I want to give you guys some examples because this will resonate and you will get this. My wife 100% is in this way for sure, and I am completely this way. And I will say this in the beginning. If you aren't this way, that doesn't make you weird or different. It just means not everyone is this way, but this is a majority, right? This is how most people do. So women's brains, if you didn't know this about yourself, is like a big bowl of spaghetti. And that doesn't mean you're softer in your brain or you're not intelligent. But what it means is that everything you think about is connected to something else at all times. And you can process multiple thoughts at the same time, right? So giving you an example. So if I get home from work and I'm asking Autumn, I was like, hey, what did you do today? Her response is going to come out in her brain this way. It's going to go, well, I went to Walmart today. When I was at Walmart today, that reminded me that we were out of toilet paper. And we were out of toilet paper reminded me, coronavirus, hey. Hey, there's Germ-X here. And I just watched this YouTube video on how to make Germ-X. And well, speaking of YouTube, oh my goodness, you know what else I thought I saw the other day? Josh, I was in your office and I saw you watch a YouTube video. And you know what that made me think of? All of a sudden, I thought about when I was in high school because I dated this boy and he did this. And you know what I thought about that? I thought about my mom. And I haven't called her in a while. I need to probably call my mom. And all this is going on at one time. Like in this one phrase. And all of a sudden, I ask her how her day was. And she's mad at her mom. And now she's mad at me. And I don't even know what just happened. And that's how you all are. Your brains are so connected to everything that anything at one time can equal anything else, right? I heard somebody say, girls are like a combination lock. The problem is every day the combination changes and you have to figure it out. It's 100% accurate. And sometimes I don't get it right and I'm in trouble all day. And so I've learned just to deal with that. So this is how girls' brains work. Guys, if you didn't know this, are not spaghetti brains, okay? Guys are waffle brains. And what I mean by that is in a waffle, everything has a separate compartment. And so when a guy deals with, you ask him a question. If you ask me when I get home, how was your
How's
day?
your day?
Or what did I do today? If you ask me, what did you do today? I'm going to say, work. The end. Like, I'm done. Like, I pulled, I did, I worked, I go home, like, I done. Like, caveman, right? You know what I mean? Like, nothing else. That is how we process information. Things in my brain are not connected. Like, if you ask me about my feelings, I'm going to have to find that box because it's somewhere in the back. And I'm going to have to find it and deal with my feelings because I don't deal with them. I'm like, nah, that's in the back. I'm going to pile that in a big pile until we have a fight. And then I'm going to remember I'll have emotions again, you know? And that's how it works. And the cool thing about dudes, and I think it's cool, and some of you girls will probably hate this, guys also have their favorite box they like to bring out and experience. And this box we like to call the nothing box. And so when you ask a question, what are you thinking about? Right? You have your boyfriend, like, hey, what are you thinking about? And he answers you nothing. He's not lying. He is telling you 100% accurate truth. His brain is shut off, and he is, when I'm at home sitting on our sofa watching TV, and she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. And she's like, you're watching TV? I was like, nope, I'm just staring at the box, and I'm not thinking about anything, right? When I get on my cell phone, there are these moments, when I drive in a car for long, I go to nothing. That's probably not good. I go to autopilot, but I'm telling you, there is a nothing box, and girls don't get this because you never have a nothing box. Like, it's why it's so hard, and if you're in the room and a girl, it's so hard for you to decompress. It's so hard for you to let go of things because anytime you try, these thoughts like ding, 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 all over your brain are going off, and you can't slow it down. And so all of a sudden, is Siri in the house? I'm sorry. And so that's why guys and girls, you are speaking completely different languages because when you get information, you perceive it, communicate it differently. And when a guy says things, it makes you frustrated because you're going, why can't you just answer my question? And when a guy asks you a question, he's wondering why you got mad at him for asking him a question that has nothing to do with anger or whatever the emotion is at the time. It could be sad. You start crying. Like, there have been times we've been together and Autumn starts crying. I'm going, I don't know what just happened. Is that not true?
Yep.
Oh, and I have no idea. When I ask her, she tells me nothing, but I know she's lying because it's always something. And so then it's my job is to become Detective Josh and pull out my magnifying glass and figure out what the something is. And if I don't, it does not end well. I better find out. And that's true for all of you too. You want somebody to discover your combination lock for the day so you can let go of all the stuff you've been holding on to all day. So was that pretty good? That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. You make it
No,
sound like it's bad. Like,
I love
we
that,
get
the way,
so much done in the day.
so much
done.
I do too, but I do it one at a time. I'm very task oriented.
Yeah, sure, okay. All right, okay.
The funny thing is you don't multitask very well because you're thinking about too much stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes.
I can totally play on my phone and have a real deep conversation. And that probably makes you so mad. I know it does.
It does.
Sorry.
Put the phones down, folks. Put them down.
That's marriage counseling 101. Okay.
There we go. All right. Okay. Well, we'll move on.
Okay.
Now I got a little bit of a better idea how a guy's brain might work, how he might think, how maybe that helps you be able to like have a better conversation with someone of the opposite sex. Okay, but like when it comes down to it, like as girls, like we really want to know like what are guys looking for?
Yeah.
Like what are they looking for in a girl?
This is as I process this question
because we don't know.
I want to be honest. This is a loaded question, right? There is no way that I can answer this because let's be honest. There are a bunch of different guys in the world that all think differently, that look for something differently, that look for different looks, look for different characters, look for different, like just everything. And that's awesome because guess what? There's a whole bunch of you that are very different too. When we're in this room, there are likes and dislikes that every single one of you have that somebody else doesn't. And so to say what you can look for is a very overwhelming answer. But I will say this, and this is what I wrote down. For you in the room, the perfect guy for you, it doesn't necessarily, I don't know what it looks like, right? You can write all this stuff down, and I encourage you to write all this. Like, what do you want? The checklist, right? You probably heard about the checklist. Write those down because this is what I know is I serve a big God who will find and fill out your checklist. And that is true. I can tell you story after story after story. We did a wedding about 3 years ago. A guy named Paige and Micah, both of them separately said they're never going to marry, and then they met and they got married. And I was like, you have no idea. I did their wedding, and I'm like, you both never thought you would find somebody because they had a specific checklist, and they finally found each other. And so I say this to say is in God's timing, but this is what I think is important to do, is you have to ask the question is, what kind of guy do you want? And so it's not the question is what is God's looking for. It's what kind of God do you want to attract? Because this is what I know. There's a principle, and it's on the screen. This is the principle I use all the time because it is the truth, especially dealing with students and teenagers and even young adults, 20-year-olds. They don't get this principle because they don't live that this principle is truth. And it's the principle of the path, is that your direction, not your intention, will determine your destination. That's not original to me. Andy Stanley wrote it. I just stole it and used it a bunch, right? But what I mean by that is it does not, you can want the most godly, amazing husband one. You can want the most amazing boyfriend who loves you and cares for you and does all these solid things for you. And you're like, man, I want this. But so many times we have this direction, our intent, this is what we want, but our direction never line up. So you're like, I want a godly guy. But then you go out being like, I'm just going to find the next boy who likes me at school and I'm going to start dating him because he showed me some attention. And all of a sudden, our intent of having a godly husband and our direction of I'm just going to follow whoever likes me or whoever DMs me or whoever, Snapchats me or whatever, all of a sudden they don't match up. And so when you ask this question, what's a guy looking for? You got to ask the real question is, what are you looking for in a guy? Because we continue to I see students all the time who settle for something that's less than what God has for them. And that's because of they are open and willing to just say yes to anyone that may or may not show them attention at the time. Is that okay?
Yes, I think that's good.
So, and I also want to put it, sorry, I've jumped ahead here. But if you're sitting in this room, I'd also say this. This is like, okay, I'm putting my dad hat. Well, I have a hat on, but I'm going to put my dad hat on for a second. In the room, I would say this is speaking to all, because this is a mixed bag, right? We have 7th grade to seniors in the room, and the older people in the room. And when I say this is, if you are in this place where you cannot see yourself in a long-term committed, engaged, married relationship in the next 2 years, my caution would be to wait and hold off on exclusive dating. Now, I'm not against casual, chilling, going to prom, going home. I'm pro all that, right? I have a 7-year-old daughter who the boy is going to be in trouble one day, I can tell you. But I would say this, is you don't want to set yourself up for heartbreak. And I've said that from experience because there's a lot of mistakes that we both have made in past relationships. It wasn't because I wanted to make a mistake. It's because I wasn't emotionally, physically, spiritually ready for a relationship. And so we dive into these. I'm in, you're saying I love you and you're in 8th grade and, you can't even spell the word love. And you're like, what? My daughter, I'll give you this, my first-year-old daughter, or first grade year old, Snow, 7. Sorry. She came home and she said, Daddy, this boy at school told me he loved me. And I said, he doesn't. He said, he does. And I said, no, he doesn't. I said, he doesn't even know what love is. And then I said, you can love him if you can explain what love is. She's like, it's when you really like him. And I said, nope, you're wrong. You're loose. You can't date him. Because so many times we jump into relationships thinking we know what's better than God. And really, if you may not want to say that, but when we jump into a relationship that may not be set up and you're not ready for it, you're saying, God, I don't trust that you have a plan for me. And that's tough. And I know you would never say that. And I know there's some of you in this room right now are in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, and you have boyfriends. And you're in 10th grade, kind of the end of it. Maybe you're at this place where between you and your parents, this is a conversation with you and your parents, not with me. But I would say, man, you might want to really evaluate, what are you trying to achieve in this relationship? Is it because you're looking for the mate, or you just want to have fun? Because you want to have fun, go bowling. You know what I mean? Find some dudes and some girls and go flirt and have fun. But don't be in a committed relationship that's going to lead you down a place of heartache that could potentially wreck your future in the decision you make. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
That was my dad hat for a second. Sorry.
No, that's good. It's helpful. I hope this is something you guys will continue to think through. Okay, but let's get really practical here for a minute. Who initiates?
Yeah, this is a tough one because we work. You guys live in a world that I didn't live in. I grew up in dudes are the only one who do it, but y'all live in a world where girls are aggressive. And maybe some of you are be aggressive, be aggressive, and so some of you are like, man, I'm all in. I know what I'm looking for, and I'm going after. Oh, shoot your shot, whatever. But what I'm saying when you do that is you are setting up future difficulties in that relationship. If you pursue him, you initiate him. Whenever we just read Ephesians 5, we'll jump into that in a second. Whenever it gets time to go into marriage and the man's supposed to lead spiritually, you're really going to struggle because your idea was I went first and he followed along. And also, there's something about it, ladies. Let's be honest. There's something about being pursued. There's something about a guy looking at you and saying, you are the target. And if you become the target in the pursuit, that's romantic. There's no romantic movie where this girl runs after the dude. That don't happen. What do you read? You watch Dear John. You watch The Notebook. It's all these like movies about who's that author?
Yeah, that one.
Nicholas Sparks. All his movies, it ain't about a girl doing it. It's a guy romantically putting out a boat under the flowers in the rain and kissing in the rain, like you all foot popping, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, why? Because that's the way God designed you. We joke about it, but it was all serious. God designed you to want to be pursued. And so I would say if the guy's not willing to do that, he's not the guy, right? He's not ready for you, and he's not ready for that commitment.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's look a little bit more about relationship. Going to start digging into those verses and like what specifically does God have for us? What is God's design for us in what is our role in relationships?
Yeah.
As a woman, as a female.
Yeah, I'm not, but that's
I
good.
know. I am. So
no, I would say this. This is one Autumn says she cringes. And if we're being honest, in the church I grew up in, and especially in the Deep South, sometimes this word submit has a really terrible connotation, right? We have taken the word submit, and men, and I'm speaking to myself now, so I'm not speaking to you, I'm speaking to myself. Men have said, I'm in charge. I tell you what to do, and you're my footstool, right? I tell you, I own you. You're my property. I've heard teenage boys say that. Oh, they're my. I said, boy, you come here. Like there was nothing, because God did not design you to be property. He uniquely designed you in a special way. Matthew Henry, he's just a biblical scholar, said it this way, and it's on the screen. I think this quote is. He says, the woman, she was not made out of the head to rule over him, speaking of man, nor out of the feet to be trampled on by him, but out of his side. Think about that, the rib. Out of the side to be equal with him, under his arm to be protected. Man, this gets good. And near the heart to be beloved. And that's the design. That's what it means when it says submit. He's not saying come and rule over me. It's saying God has put me as a spiritual leader in our home, and I struggle with that because if you look at Genesis 3, at the fall, like the curse of it was that women want to lead and men are passive, right? That's where we lived in. That's why we did a series called Man Work, because we have a bunch of passive men. And that is hard because that's the curse of man. That's what sin does. But God created men and women equally. I want to be very clear, but he also made them very distinctly, meaning you have a purpose. And again, we see here in Ephesians 5, if you throw it back on the screen, 22 to 25, it says, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. Because again, when you fall under your husband, your boyfriend one day, all of you, I know you're thinking, like, this is way out. Some of you not as far out, right? But when you do that, you're not submitting to your husband, you're submitting to God and the leadership that he's put into your life. I want to be clear there. Your husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. Christ gave his life. That's what love is. It's willing to sacrificially give everything for someone else. He's the savior of the body. Now, as the church submits to Christ, also the wife should submit to their husbands in everything. Just as you became a believer, you submitted to Christ. That is the role of a wife, of saying, man, I trust you because you have earned my trust. Christ earned the trust on the cross, right? And so he has earned that, and your husband needs to earn that as well. The men in your life need to be able to earn that and love you in that way. Going back, Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, it says, and God said, it is not good for a man to be alone, so I will make him a helper. I love the word helper here, because so many times we take that and we think that means the kitchen. And I say that jokingly because I've heard a bunch of dudes say that. And that's not. The word helper actually comes out of here. I want to get it right. It comes out of Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 7. And it's the word help here is where the root word and in the Hebrew comes out of. And it actually means defender of his foes. This is someone considered a warrior. So this is not a weak position. This is a helper as someone who comes and is a part of the team. I always say you're not a footstool, you're a co-pilot, right? You ever flown? I know nobody's flying right now because of Corona, but whatever. If you're in the flying, they don't have one pilot, they have two. Why? Because you need a helpmate. You need somebody doing navigation. You need somebody pushing the buttons. You need somebody knowing if he goes down, I'm ready to step in. And that's what a wife is. It's someone, that's what a woman's role is, not to be trampled on, but to come alongside with. And again, he makes us design uniquely male and female, and he designed that for a reason, only inside of marriage. So if I wanted to answer this question too, because this is one of the things I hear all the time, is when do I begin to submit to my husband? And this is where I want to be clear. This is where I want to back up 5 steps. You don't need to submit until you're in a committed relationship. And by committed, I mean there's a ring on it, and we're like weeks away from getting married, and then you can start the process of submitting. Because as a woman in this room, if some boy tells you to submit because I'm the man in this relationship, you need to just peace out and roll out. And if you're scared of him, you come talk to me and I'll help you, right? You know, I got a couple options at my house I can bring with me. You know what I mean? I meant guns, by the way, but no. Don't write that down or record that. But what I'm saying is you are not supposed to submit until until you're in this place where you can go into a committed relationship. Otherwise, he will use and abuse you because he knows what you want to hear, and he'll say it to get what he wants. And so be careful in that area.
Okay, so let's flip it around. What is God's design for a guy in a relationship?
These are things. If you're writing down, if you're writing down for your future husband, these three, I would put every single one on the list. Honestly, probably you already have a list. All three of these are all three of these are all these. First thing is this. Is you need to look for a guy. You need to look for a guy who can provide. And what I mean for that is, he doesn't have a job. You don't have a relationship. And I know as a teenager, you're like, what is that? That's why I say the weight off. He cannot provide. He cannot provide for you. And I'm not saying he has to be. I'm not saying you can't go become a doctor. That is not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. You're gonna make more money. You're gonna make more money there. And that's not a numerical thing. He just has to be willing to provide. Willing to provide for you. Not just provide for you financially, but also provide for you that he is willing to jump in and be a part of what you're a part of. You don't want to be that wife. And we unfortunately see so many times, especially in church, where the husband, they're married in name only because he does his own thing or leaves her to do whatever he wants and just runs off. And that's not what God designed. I have a scripture I want to throw on the screen. It says 1 Timothy 5:8. It says this: but if anyone does not provide, check out how important this is. Does not provide for his speaking to the man here. This is a male, own family, especially for his own household. He has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. That's crazy. He's speaking. This is in the same passage talking about widows, and he's saying, if you leave a woman behind, like if you have the ability to take care of someone and you choose not to, you are dirt. There's other words for that, but there it is bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so that's what God's saying here. You need to provide. Number one. Number two is this: you need to protect. Everyone in the room, most girls want a guy who's, this is not always true, but it's typically bigger than you. Like if you feel like, oh, they can protect me, right? There's a moment, right? I don't know. I'm not a girl. I'm guessing that is true. But protection does not even mean just physical. That's what we think about. Protect also means a guy who's willing to protect your heart. And this is the part that we don't like to talk. And it's like, ooh, this gets weird and awkward. We need a guy who is willing to say, and it says in Song of Solomon 3:5, that do not stir or awaken love before it's appropriate time. You need a guy who can respect your boundaries. Why? Because he's protecting your heart. Because until he is in a committed lifetime relationship, you are not his and he is not yours. And so you got to be really careful, because sometimes I see so many times when you're in a relationship, you begin to give pieces of your heart away, one move at a time, one relationship at a time. And all of a sudden you get into this place way down the road where you're going, I feel numb. I don't feel love. Why? Because over this course of period of time, you've given it, and maybe it started very innocent, but ultimately you begin to give things away, and he is not protecting these people in your life. He says he is because he wants to try to get something from you, but he's not. And then the last thing that he does is that he should profess. It's the third piece. So they go together. So protect, provide, and profess. Profess. First thing is, if he doesn't know the Lord, you don't need to be dating him. That's just reality. And I'll say this because this comes up all the time. If you're in the room and this is happening, I don't know your story, and I'm not picking on you, but I want to be honest. If you're dating a guy of a different faith, and I don't mean denomination, you have to understand the difference here, but of a different faith. He says he's Mormon, he's agnostic, he's whatever, fill in the blank at your school or whatever, and you're like, well, I'm going to bring him to church, and that's called missionary dating, and that's not healthy, it's not biblical, and it's unwise. And so you need someone first that professes that he loves Jesus. Professes, not just says, oh, I go to church, but I have a relationship with God. And then the second thing is profess. You need a guy who will profess his love for you. And I know that's really cheesy and romantic in this moment, but you want a guy who can fulfill you, because God has given his role to fulfill you emotionally as well. So you need a guy who's willing to say, I love you, I take care of you, I am for you. Because every girl, God designed every girl to have this unique desire to want to be loved. And if he's not willing to do it now, he's not going to do it when you put a ring on it. Let me just tell you that. So find a guy who's willing to profess that. Not at ninth grade, or and you're like, oh, I'm glad you profess Jesus, but we don't profess love yet. We're not there yet, because I don't even quite know what that means yet. But somebody who really is willing to do that.
Whew, okay, it's like some heavy stuff there, man. Okay.
This next one gets really awkward, so it's gonna be fun.
I know. Okay, this is something that we think about as women, or we need to know. We just need to know the truth.
Right.
Can you tell us the truth?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Kind of about.
Does what we wear really matter? What about our videos, all those TikToks we're making, our snaps? Doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think you all know the answer because you're like immediately like, this is uncomfortable right now. Josh, please do not look at me. I'm like, okay, I'll try not to. But when I read this, I want to be clear. God, you and girls don't understand this, and they try to, and they tell me they do, and you probably think you do. You do not understand how brains of dudes work, how eyes work. Guys are visual creatures, and I know you may be like, I'm a visual creature too. I'm telling you, not the same way. I'm telling you, you do not process information, looks, all the other stuff, all the what you wear in the same way a guy does that. And I think if you did, it would change how you present yourself. Because I mean, is it possible? Is it possible for a guy to look at you and because I hear this statement and you may have said it and I'm not trying to slam it. What I'm trying to say is it's my body. I can wear what I want, and that is 100% true. I just said that, right? It is your body. You do not submit. But here's the deal: how much do you have to want to cause your friends, your guys in your life to stumble because of what you wear? That's the question. It's not can you? Yeah, you have the rights to do what you want to, but the question is how much are you? What are you telling this other person? Are you making it difficult? Absolutely. Is it right for him to objectify your body and to make images and have thoughts and that? Absolutely not. But I'm telling you right now, as guys, we genuinely, someone who's following Jesus, let me put preface, somebody that's following Jesus, we genuinely don't want to have to struggle in this area. But boy, we live in a world that is not easy, right? You can't go anywhere and see anything without it being out there. You can't scroll enough TikTok videos and just go like, what the heck is this? You know, I had to delete TikTok. Off my, which I had, it was weird, by the way, so don't judge me. But because you're the old guy, I'm like, I know, but I had to get rid of it. Why? Because man, I'm just being honest. There was a lot of stuff I was like, I should not. Like my wife is not honoring to my wife, and so that's not easy to say. I did a Snapchat a year and a half ago for the same reason. It's just not glorifying to my wife, and I want to honor her. And one day you're going to want your husband to do the same thing. You probably want your boyfriend to do the same thing. If we're being honest, there's a story. This is a couple weeks ago, and I'm not going to talk about this person or any names, but I was having a conversation with a student here at Central, and we were having this conversation, and this conversation changed really quickly. She said, Josh, I just wanted to tell you, I caught my brother looking at some images that he shouldn't have been looking at. And it was like, I mean, emotions, tears came down the face. He says, I don't want that for him. I know what this path goes down. I don't want this. And just remember that every time you wear a dress, send a picture, that is someone else's brother, son, whatever it may be. And those images will pierce and change who he's becoming. And you don't want to have a brother or a sibling or a cousin who's addicted, who's lost everything because of the images that he's protecting into his life. I know that's heavy, but I also want you to know the weightedness of this because as guys, we want help because we're not perfect and we're messed up. I already told you, our brains stop working at 14 or maybe younger, right? And so we need our help. And so as ladies, then you got to help us out. And then that's not saying that you don't have the rights. I don't want to be, you have all rights to wear whatever you want to. But it's not about your rights. It's about how much do you love your brother in Christ. How much do you love this person over here to say, I'm going to help you out. It's not to do with anything with rights. It has to do with how much do you want to help somebody else.
And is it wise?
Yeah. Yeah. Proverbs 31:25 says she's clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. And this idea of dignity and strength means to be guarded, right? It's to wear things that would be appropriate for her in that.
Hey, thanks for being honest. All right, we got one more question for you. And this is like something that I think ultimately that like as women, as girls in this room, that we struggle with. Like we don't always fully like comprehend and understand this. And so like I guess put on your dad hat.
Yeah.
And tell us like, and this is like, girls, this is what we want you to take home tonight. Like this is, if you hadn't heard anything else, like this is what we want you to hear, because we want to know from you, what does God say about me? How am I supposed to be treated?
Yeah. There's a lot of verses we could go to in Psalms, which is you're beautifully and wonderfully made. You were knit together in your mother's womb. And a lot of you've heard a lot of those things. So I just want to be transparent just for a second as a dad of a 7-year-old little girl who I dearly cherish. And she is the apple of my eye or the jewel in the crown or however you want to say. I want my daughter to know that she is valued. I want her to know that she is the most important thing in the room when I'm in the room with her. And I want each and every one of you to also feel that way. I don't know your story, if there's a dad in the picture or there's a granddad in your picture, or if it's a guardian, or I don't know your story. You all have different stories, but God's design was a father on this earth to represent the Father that's in heaven, who dearly loves you, who declares that you are special. They're uniquely made. That God uniquely said that you are set apart. And I love this. You are already chosen. You don't have to wait for some boy to choose you. You have already been chosen. Every night when I put Snow to bed, I get emotional here because I told Snow I was going to tell a story. But every time I put her to bed, I always say this because this is what I want her to know. Insecurity is the thing that will ravish as guys and girls. To not think you have value. And that's why a lot of the times we act out and we do things. I know that's why I acted out. It's because I don't believe what God says about me. And for her, I want her every single night. I look at her in the eye and say, Snow, you cannot do anything to earn my love any more than you already have it. And you'll never do anything to lose the love that you have for me. And I said, and you know who, and I always say this, and she repeats, you know who loves you more than Daddy? He said, Jesus. That's right. Because one day, it may not be me in the picture, right? I don't want to get really sappy there. I won't do that. But I also want her to know that she is chosen, that she is beautiful in every way, that nothing she can do will ever make her more beautiful, and that I see her in this moment. And that she doesn't need, I say this all, I say, girl, you don't need any boy to complete you because you are made complete in Christ. She got saved this past year. And through that, you are complete in Christ. And I say that to say in this room, this is how we kind of close this night out. It's a night, if you haven't had a chance to hear that, or you may not have grown up in hearing that, I want you to hear, this is not coming from Josh. This isn't coming from a dad. This is coming from God, that he says you are chosen, that you are valued, that you have purpose, that you are uniquely designed. And no boy, no matter what he says, will ever live up to the love of the Father in heaven. And to know that you don't have to give anything to get anything, because it was, guess what? Christ gave it all for you already. And all he asks is you follow in that and know his love for you is more than anybody, including your husband, one day will ever have. I always tell my kids, I said, you know who I love the most? And he said, God. I said, yeah. And I said, who do you love second? And I said, I love my wife, because God gave my wife in my life to be my second love. And I said, and I love you as well, because God has set it up that way. And if we don't get it, if we get it out of order, and all of a sudden the spouse becomes God, then all of a sudden she'll never live up to the expectations I have for her. And if in your life, if God ever tries to move above the place that God should have in your life, things will start getting messed up and out of order. And all of a sudden you will look for him for fulfillment in your life and not to God. So I'm going to pray for us, and Claire's going to come back on stage. But I want to kind of say this tonight. If you're in this room, and this is a heavy subject, right? This is kind of fun. We had some jokes, and I hope you took some information that's helpful. But if you sit in this room and you're in this place where, man, maybe there's mistakes, maybe there's this moment you just need to come and just pray and say, God, I have got it out of order. Maybe there's a relationship in this room. This happens every time we do a relationship series. Maybe there's a guy in your life that you've got it out of order, and you either need to break up or have a hard conversation with him. Tonight's the last week. Next week we have silent disco. We have some other stuff going on. We have spring break coming. But I don't want you to miss out on tonight. I don't want you to miss out on what God could be speaking to you. And if you're in this room and you don't believe what I said about you, if you don't believe not really I said, what God's truth said, what his word says, if you don't believe what his word says about you, and I'm just going to ask, man, that you may just sit where you are. Maybe you need to come and kneel and ask, say, God, speak that over me. Speak that over me. Let my heart not just hear, but believe that you see me as loved and valued and treasured. I'm going to pray for us. And then we're going to stand. If you need to respond to whatever God's doing in your life, if you just want some other girls, we're all girls. I'm not a girl, but you're all girls. You're all girls in the room. If you just need another girl just to come and pray with you, grab them by hand, pull them up here, and do business with whatever God's speaking to you. Let's pray. Father God, I thank you so much for your truth. God, I thank you so much that we can come in, God, and not come in here trying to earn anything or trying to get anything from you, God, but we come to hear from you. God, and I pray for that student just in the room that I can sense, God, that you're speaking to them right now where they go, I don't believe what you said. I didn't have that person in my life. I don't have that person in my life. God, I pray in this moment right now, you speak into the depths of their heart, into the depths of their pain, into the depths of their weariness and loss, God, and you speak and they will hear they are valued, they are loved, they are treasured. God, so much that you gave the best gift you could have given, which is your one and only Son, to prove how much you love us. Help us live in that truth in this moment and for eternity. God, we ask this in